They call them auditors, some call them agitators, others heroes of free speech. Tonight on Mid-Maryland Votes, we sit down with two of the most talked about names in the Maryland freedom movement. Shaun Porter, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic, known for his profanity-laced rants and his headline-grabbing stunts that even include mooning public officials. Levi Trumbull, the strategist, the documenter, and the watchdog behind a social media empire that shines a spotlight on government overreach across Frederick and Washington counties. Are they the court jesters stirring chaos or civic crusaders defending our First Amendment rights? Either way, they're shaking the system, and that's what we're talking about tonight on Mid-Maryland Votes. Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of Mid-Maryland Votes. I am your host, Mark Flynn. With me, as always, is my co-host,
Ethan Lowen.
And we have two very special guests today. We have Shaun Porter. We have Levi Trumbull. Gentlemen, thank you and welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Shaun, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself for our audience?
Yes, my name is Shaun Porter, but sometimes I identify as anybody who has pissed me off in the political arena.
Very good. And Levi?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Good to be here. Good to see you, Shaun, Ethan, to everyone watching. I appreciate it. I do government accountability content on YouTube, and you can find it all, not just on YouTube, all over the place, TikTok, Facebook. It certainly gets out there. And we do that all based out of Frederick, Maryland.
Now, political accountability is a double-edged sword. I want to talk to you guys about that tonight. So, you know, in the political accountability realm, there are various levels. I would say you guys are definitely on the edge of extreme as far as holding people accountable. Would you guys categorize yourselves that way?
Yeah, I would categorize myself as a guy who I have my two children. My oldest one is a wonderful professional firefighter in Prince George's County. And my youngest, he's going to be doing just fine. He's a wonderful young man. And it's that point in time in my life when these politicians need to be held accountable and they need to stop lying to the people. And since I have the ability to publicize and expose the truth about these guys, I have been doing that. I get attacked relentlessly in every way, shape, or form that you can. Every type of retaliation that they can try and exact, they do. Most people are not cut out to be under attack 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I grew up with 8 brothers and sisters, so I'm completely used to fighting all the time. It suits me just fine. Levi is a very talented individual. He's really good at video editing. He's quite funny, even when he doesn't mean to be. And his videos, his introductions, his commentary, it's second to none. I would say he is the Walter Cronkite of Frederick, Maryland.
So how about you, Levi? As far as accountability of politicians go, how would you guys rate yourselves?
Well, so that's an interesting question. Here's what I will say. I would be willing to take it as far as I thought it needed to go, right? So not every politician is the same. Not every circumstance is the same. But what I will say is that, you know, I think that me and Mr. Porter, obviously, we exist in the same space, but we don't operate the same way. And I have a lot of respect for what Mr. Porter does because he is unafraid. He's not ashamed, and he is not afraid to die. Like literally, just ask him; he'll tell you for what he believes in. And I think that, you know, with the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk and, you know, other political, you know, high-ranking political figures as well, you know, it's on both sides of the aisle. I think that we're just in a sort of a different political territory and political space these days. And I think that what should not be all that controversial, unfortunately, in our current political ecosystem is becoming very toxic. And we just, bottom line is I think it's courageous, and I think it's important for people to be out there standing up for what they believe in. And that's what I try to do on my platform. I try to spotlight instances where I think government goes too far, where police go too far, and just have some resistance to that. And obviously, not only when they just, because here's the bottom line. It's not just about me. It's about giving a voice also to anybody that it's happening, regardless of whether this person has a platform or not, and also allowing people to be able to share, be also like sharing that platform as well, regardless of what type of discrimination, what type of, anti-free speech, regardless of who it's happening to, we're all treating it, the same. So bottom line is per your question of where I would put myself, I would put myself in the category of I will take it, I think, as far as I need to go, but also try to do it in as professional of a manner as possible.
And I think you made a very interesting point just a moment ago when you were speaking, in that there does seem to be some kind of a niche, a need that you
Mhm.
are filling. And the reason I
Right.
say that is because some videos that you guys put forth that are in the millions of views, and this is consistent. It's not a flash in the in the pan type of moment. What do you attribute? What is happening here? What is the need that is being filled, or is it simply the sensationalism that you guys bring to the table?
Several years back, there was a great man. He was the mayor of Cincinnati, and he has passed away. He would have been president if he hadn't have paid for prostitutes with a check in northern Kentucky in Covington. He would have been the first Jewish president in the United States, but he messed it all up by acting inappropriately. That has subsequently disappeared since he passed away, and we are filling that niche and that niche, so to speak. And that, of course, is Jerry Springer. God rest his soul. We're taking over.
Go ahead,
Well, let
Levi.
me say something about that. I'm gonna make it more simple than that. I think the answer is actually, in part, people have had enough. People look around. I think when Trump got reelected, after being elected the first time, not winning the second time, and making that triumphant return in a larger way than his previous two attempts, what it tells me is that people have had enough. People have had enough of the nonsense. People are ready to return to some normalcy. And again, I'm just talking about, I'm not saying if I'm for or even against. I'm not even talking politics. I just think the bottom line is that people in the country, the feeling, the mindset is that people have had enough of sort of the status quo. They've had enough of the way it's been, and they're looking for something new, and they're looking for people who are unafraid to take shots at the status quo, the way that it's always been, the ways that people are now starting to wake up to and say, oh, wait a minute, we're supposed to have a First Amendment. We're supposed to have a Fourth Amendment. We're supposed to be treated equally. We're supposed to have rights. We have rights to public records. And people are like, they're starting to wake up to it, and they are respecting the individuals who are going out there day in and day out, like Mr. Porter, and who are basically unafraid and unapologetic in their political redress. And I think that's what it is at the end of the day.
I think you're
It's
absolutely
not
right.
every. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the people are definitely attracted to what you guys bring to the table as far as holding people accountable, being
Right.
unafraid. But there are consequences. I know both of you have suffered from consequences of taking on some of these politicians and having very strong opinions about folks. Would you guys mind addressing those issues? What kind of consequences have you seen as a result of trying to hold these politicians and public servants accountable over the years? Yes.
I'll take that
Well,
first, Levi.
that's
So
that's big tone right there.
they try to arrest you at public meetings for asking for them to resign. Personally, there's a man running for commissioner who was arrested for asking for the Board of County Commissioners president to resign. That's just one example. I'm being sued for $10 million in an attempt to silence my free speech, what's called a slap suit, which is an attempt to intimidate someone from public speaking. They didn't realize that I lived the fight and that I love going to court all the time. So I'm actually getting ready to write an appellate brief this week. I am going to the appellate court of Maryland I'm on an interlocutory appeal on a $10 million slap lawsuit. Basically, the very first ruling the judge made in the case, I immediately filed an interlocutory appeal and took it to the appellate court of Maryland. So I have plans on litigating every single aspect of this freedom of speech case about this political sign regarding a local politician who is corrupt to the core. Meanwhile, this politician has lost his reputation in the community, made a fool of himself, and he's destroyed his family. Everyone's mad at him in the county, and his popularity is just above HIV, as well as the fact that he recently suffered a major medical event at a public meeting as a result of having to deal with me because he's simply not used to criticism or anyone holding him accountable due to his wealth and his standing in the community. So they will do everything from having you arrested to suing you to coming after your children. And if you're not built like myself, you might not want to try to hold government accountable. Government doesn't like being held accountable. They will use all the organs of the government to try to take your freedom, your livelihood, your family, your property, everything.
You know, as you said, Levi, you alluded to it earlier. If you're not pro free speech for everybody, you're not pro
Right.
free speech.
That's exactly right. And people, I think, in this day and age, are going to reward the people who are going to bring back some common ground back to the table. So that's what I think it is.
He brought up Jerry Springer, and I remember an interview where Jerry Springer was basically being questioned about the sensational nature of his show, and he said, "You know what is probably the most interesting part of my show for me," he said, "is that when you listen to who the audience cheers for, they almost always, 100% of the time, cheer for the party who's in the right." But it kind of lines up with what you're saying here, you are doing in your capacity here, is that they're finding the ability to see the truth. Now, as far as the criticism of the sensationalist nature of what you do, how do you respond to that? What is the role of that? What are the limits or appropriateness?
Well, I'll let Levi take this one.
Well, okay. You know what? It's funny. Thanks, Shaun. You just said something that's sort of key. There's always a theme that I've noticed in life. And that is when you try to keep a lid on something, you only make it bigger, to touch on what you just said. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I'll give you two examples real quick here. This is just the two most recent examples. The board, I'm not going to use the names, but the board president for Frederick County Public Schools, she shut down Mr. Porter's speech because of the fact that he signed up under the same name as this person. Well, she wouldn't let him speak, and she threw him out. Cops took him out and shut him down totally. The next time he came, he signed up with his whatever, real information, all that. He got up, he gave a speech, millions of views. Absolute juggernaut of a video. So it only backfired. I went to the Washington County Board of County Commissioners. I had to serve a lawsuit, some writ of summons. They tried to shut me down during the public comment. They were gaveling, things of that nature. They shut it down. We just put that video out 2 days ago, and it already has 500,000 views already. So the bottom line is every time, and we can give you more examples, but keeping a lid on something or trying to withhold that information only makes that story bigger in the long run.
There's another aspect to what you do, which is I would almost describe you guys as being the court jester. Right. So what happens is that traditionally, in America in particular, we have made fun of our politicians. Think Saturday Night Live and, many different TV shows and comedians have made their careers off of making fun of politicians. And then it appears that around the time that President Obama was elected, I remember people noting it about Saturday Night Live, that they stopped making fun of the Obama administration. And then the same thing happened to late night TV shows, etc. And it almost seems like, to a certain extent, that the role of the court jester, which goes all the way back to the medieval times, because that was the person who could say the truth in ways that everyone understood, but the powers that be did not come down on them. That was the role of the court jester. It almost seems like that is something that people are finding in you. And one of the things that I've noticed is that you guys will come up with a lot of very funny skits, scenarios, etc. And so far, I haven't seen an end to it. Where does that come from, and is that part of the strategy?
This is the way people like me and Levi are. All you're seeing on video is the way we are if the camera's not rolling. We miss so much awesome footage by not having a camera crew follow us when we go out at night. This is just how we are in life. We make light of every horrible situation. It's just a personality type, and we're naturally funny people. Levi obviously is very funny looking, and it just works well. We're just goofing off, and people love it. And we go into these situations where these politicians think that they're high and mighty, and we bust on them like we bust on each other, and then they can't handle it, and then they try to have us arrested. I mean, dude, it's hilarious. It's like a lot of people see me and Levi and Justin Holder, out there, which he couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately. See us out there goofing off, having fun, laughing at public meetings at our own jokes and speeches and whatnot. And people can connect to that. People cannot connect to an empty suit who sits up there and acts like what comes out of their backside has the odor of roses. And that's what our politicians are. Very, very low intellect, very vain, shallow human beings that make almost no money. In the case of school board people, they make about 12 grand a year. Commissioners make like 36 to 38,000 a year, somewhere in that area. And they do it for power. And the only people who are attracted to wasting their time for very little compensation are people who want the attention and who want the power. And, that's who we're dealing with here. And those people naturally are not funny. They're naturally not hospitable to humor. And they make a perfect target to bounce our jokes off of or direct our jokes at. So it really works well. It comes through in the videos that we're just having fun. We're not malicious about it. We just speak the truth. And there's no one more hated than someone that speaks the truth. So we're making these incredibly funny videos. We're speaking truth to power, and they absolutely hate it, but the people absolutely love it. So it just works. And, I have days when I get millions upon millions upon millions of views. And, it's just because what we do is funny, and we're just goofing off, and we follow the law, we follow the rules, and then they try to make more rules to stop us, and then we just find new stuff to do. Like, there's literally nothing they can do to ever make us change. It'll never work. It'll only backfire.
Levi, did you want to respond to that? You said you had
Sure.
something else.
Well, actually, I think he touched on probably everything that I would say. But what I would just say is that there is an entertainment aspect to at least what I do, what probably Mr. Porter does. Obviously, you don't want to be boring. People don't watch boring. That's one of the things that you work out, or at least I did in the very early stages. Is, well, how do you get it? How does it that you convey a message properly and appropriately? Well, you can do that with humor. You can do that with your editing style. You can do that by grabbing someone's attention, very quickly. But the bottom line is it's not just about that. So at least when I go out, I'd like to think that what I'm speaking about does have some importance. We're not just there to, cause a ruckus. We're there to say what needs to be said, but also say it in a way that's going to relate to people, that's going to be in layman's terms, and that is going to perhaps make a real change for something that needs to have a turnaround. But obviously, no question that does go in our mind. How to go out there and say something that is, or basically, how do we create a piece, whether it be a video, whatever it is, that's going to get out there, And I think that it's funny. You look at these government communications teams. They hire people. They pay them, probably $100,000 salaries. They produce content for the government. Nobody watches it, but yet I'll put out a video, or Shaun will put out a video, and it'll get 1 million hits. Why is it that two guys with a cell phone can get 1 million hits on a video, but you pay people in communications departments, they're probably blowing more than probably millions of dollars, spending millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and their message can't be communicated clearly? It's because people don't have faith in them. People don't trust their message, but people do trust, the average person, the average Joe. And I think that's what we are, and that's what we do. and we're real. And people can spot a phony. And I want to just say that too. In the early days, I used to say, oh, well, I should sort of act like, there's a way that a news reporter or that a sharer of information is supposed to behave. And I sort of just killed all that early on. And I was just like, just talk to the people, just talk, just speak to them and just give that a shot. And very early on, you will start to learn as you go through the publishing. You learn very quickly that people want authenticity. They want you to be you, and they can smell stinky cheese a mile away. They can spot a phony. So you just got to be real. And if you're not real, people are going to pick up on that very quickly. And that's what you said a moment ago, is that they're phony, they're fakes, they're frauds, and this is why people don't like them. They don't think that they're getting a legitimate upfront person. They think they're getting a career politician who hides his real beliefs, who puts on a mask and isn't actually upfront with the people. That's what people are sick and tired of.
I think I would say that your videos are more like political satire, and that is the way that politicians have been held accountable for literally centuries. A lot like Ethan remarked earlier, and I think you guys are performing an invaluable service to our community and to everybody else. Now, the question
Right.
arises: there are politicians who get into this game, and Shaun, you alluded to it earlier. They're not getting paid a whole lot of money, and without their work, we're not going to get a whole lot done. So, how would you respond to the critics who state that you're making it harder and harder for people to volunteer for these positions due to the scrutiny that you place them under?
It's funny. Only the crooked people complain about scrutiny.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that.
If you're honest, what do you care? Notice I haven't said anything about one particular county commissioner. The dude is an upright citizen and he's perfect for the job. And then you've got other ones that are not so perfect or upright. And whatever comes my way from them, if I could verify it, it's going to go out there and I'm going to talk about it. We don't want everybody to want these positions. We want people who are good people, who are not afraid of being challenged. And, with politics, there's always evil and wrongdoers out there pushing the wrong ideology and agenda. And, I'm glad that I'm able to stand up and try and stop it. And it's a fun hobby for me.
So let me ask you guys a question. Has there ever been a time where you had one of these politicians, deer in the headlights looked, and you felt bad for him? Maybe I shouldn't have pushed this as hard as I did.
I always offer them, like I have emailed one particular politician for months explaining that he should resign and that it's only going to get worse closer to the election. And I give him statistics on how many views he's getting and what people are saying. The thing is, these people are so stubborn, evil, pig-headed, arrogant, and self-righteous that they will never take a hint, ever. They don't do that.
And one of the things is that I think you're missing, Shaun, is that even if they don't, right? Okay, they don't want to step aside. You can't make anyone who's elected step aside. But what you can do is say, all right, you're the incumbent. What we can do is get you voted out, right?
Yeah,
so,
like the school board.
Exactly. So your primary objective might be that. But if that doesn't always work, well, then you fall through. They're both equally as important. And I think we hit both of them, is that the secondary objective then becomes, well, how do we get these people out of office? In a lawful manner. Do we protest? Do we need to go up there and do we need to speak? Like, how is it we can do this in an effective manner and reach our target audience? And we've done that. Those are conversations that we've engaged in before. But at the end of the day, that's really the recipe.
And just as a follow-up to Mark's previous question, so one of you had mentioned that there was a politician who essentially at the same time that you guys were doing your thing in a public meeting, about that time, this politician had what appears to have been possibly a heart attack. Now, there's obviously a whole lot of reasons as to why this individual could have had a heart attack. One criticism potentially is that the stress that you caused influenced a major life-threatening event. How would you answer the critics in regards to a situation like that?
Well, I can't answer the way that I want to, but F them. Okay, so extrapolate on that abbreviation. They're public figures. They wanted the heat, so they got in the kitchen. And when you're 72 years old, maybe you shouldn't be arguing with a dude who doesn't stop arguing, who's right, who has facts on his side. And you shouldn't be getting upset because of criticism. You shouldn't have never got into public life. If you couldn't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. In this case, get out of the board meeting, because you're going to get criticized by citizens, and that's our right to petition government for redress of grievances. And I don't step off my rights for anybody. If you want to put somebody who's more physically fit to violate people's civil rights and to stand by bad policies, go right ahead. But if you're out there doing great harm to the citizens of Washington County, and a local person is holding you accountable, and you happen to suffer a massive heart attack, well, I feel sorry for you, but you likely should have taken the 100 opportunities presented prior to resign, rather than continuing to serve when you can't physically do so. And that particular individual allegedly already had a pacemaker, and he decided to keep on running. He didn't want to give up the power. He didn't want to give up the praise. He didn't want to give up the attention. And he chose to have a heart attack.
And one thing I want to say is that, without getting specific about that, obviously there's a lot of rumors flying around. We've all heard things. I don't think if we have any verifiable information as to what happened right there. But I do just want to second, what Shaun just said, and what it could be, also is, and I think with that situation, the guilt of doing what he's doing in that situation might have just, weighed on his mind and heart so long that in that moment it got the best of him. So it could have been the fact that that type of redress had nothing to do with anything, but just that, maybe there's a little bit of self-guilt there about that whole situation. We don't know. And the bottom line is it's just, we don't really know much about that. And we actually, honestly, they should probably be talking about it, but they might not. We might never get to the bottom of that. So that's what I'll say.
I will say, Shaun brought it up earlier, and I did want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Washington County School Board turnover, which
Yeah.
many have attributed to your two gentlemen's efforts in trying to bring a light to what the school board in Washington County was doing with our children. Would you guys like to speak to that issue?
Well, you probably shouldn't go around messing with people's disabled kids, because you're going to create people like me and Levi.
Actually, the first time that I really saw you in action, it was when you spoke to the school board, the old school board. There's been a complete turnover at this point, with the exception of one of the 7 members. And
Next time.
the video that you put out, because it was about your son, who does have a disability, and the treatment that he was receiving in the schools at the time. And I believe that there was over 100 million views, so many to the point that, to the best of your ability, how would you categorize the influence that you think you do or don't have over elections ultimately?
The influence is the people. It's not me. It's not Levi. The people will make the right decisions when they actually know what's going on. And in Washington County and in Frederick County, the local newspapers get a ton of money from the government for notices, and they don't print news stories. They print propaganda. So when you got YouTubers, TikTokers, Facebookers out there making videos of what's actually going on and talking about it, it spreads like wildfire, because the country is starved for the truth. We've been stuck with CNN and local newspapers that are all owned by USA Today in New York, wherever they are, and it's all the same corporate media, and people are starved for the truth. And when they hear the truth, they know it, and they respond at the ballot box. I don't think there's a single person out there that likes me. I think they they want the truth. They hear it from me. I'm just a vessel. I'm shining a light on the problems that we have whenever I run into it. When the school board messed with my kid, they created a monster, and I'm not going back in my cave. I'm just going to continue to focus my attention on the next target of corruption and malfeasance in office. I will say that I meet a lot of nice people who work for the government, just not the elected ones. The elected ones tend to have their own agenda. And with the regards to the last school board, those people were just out of their mind. They were detached from the voters completely, and they were power hungry tyrants. And all of my speeches showed that. And I'm actually in civil litigation still with two of those individuals as we speak.
And I just want to say one thing about that incident that you brought up about Shaun's disabled son. But I was there throughout the early stages. I remember that night going back, and I was probably one of the first people to actually watch him give that political redress, if that's what you want to call it, that insane, tongue lashing of a public comment to the school board. And I remember I witnessed it and I said, man, that is hot. I got to clip that. And I put it up on my channel, and it got, because that video went on to get, 100+ million views. But I put it up initially, and I had to censor it at least enough that YouTube would publish it in an unage restricted fashion. And I put the video up, has been viewed 100 million times, if not more. I couldn't put an exact number on it. Has probably been republished, repurposed, transformed, used in 1,000 different ways by 1,000 different people. So the bottom line is it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The message was powerful. Every parent in America is going to be furious and can relate to their children or a child being mistreated. And in the case of Shaun's disabled son, it's a very empathetic situation. So it's a very raw subject.
To clarify,
so people can relate to it. People know how they feel.
Just to clarify, here's what they did. So anyone that didn't see the video on any of the platforms, they took a disabled kid at 4 years old who was in pre-K. They delayed his transfer by 4 months. They were trying to do it the whole school year. And they stuck him in with juvenile delinquents up to 5th grade. So that's like 11 and 12-year-old kids with a pre-kindergarten 4-year-old. They didn't give him an interpreter. He didn't know how to talk or communicate. And he was getting beat up by kids, 7 years older than him in this Engage program. And they would put him in a corner with like crayons and just deny him the ability to even begin learning how to communicate or, begin to learn American Sign Language. And obviously, I'm not equipped to teach anybody anything other than how to pull your pants down. And we needed the help, and we didn't get it. And his mother was on them for months, and she didn't want me involved because she knew what would happen. And on April 10th, that's when she's like, they keep delaying it. They're playing games. They're lying to us. That's when I got involved. He got transferred. They processed the transfer while I was there screaming at everybody. They immediately transferred him. That's what it takes with these corrupt politicians that are now gone from WCPS. Now they do what they're supposed to do and they follow the law. But before, they were delaying stuff so they could keep funding and deny treatment for children and accommodations for disabled children so that they could pad their budget. Well, that it would have ended right there and no one would have heard about it. But then I think it was about May and June, they started contacting my son's mom after he was already at school for the deaf, trying to get him to come back to WCPS, saying, oh, now we're going to give him the resources he needs, but we're still going to stick him in a class full of juvenile delinquents up to grade 5 to beat him up every day. And I'm like, are you serious? So then I had to go after him again. And that's when I started doing my public speaking because they didn't get the message the first time. Well, they got the message now because those individuals responsible are all retired except for the superintendent which as soon as his contract is over, is going to get to enjoy retirement himself as well, along with the board members that the citizens rightfully voted out of office for the way they were treating not just my kid, but all of our kids in Washington County.
And it can't be understated that the results of that election were amazing. I mean, literally the entire school board turned over except for one member, and it went from being a tool of the school unions to an actual representation of the parents of that community. I laud your work, gentlemen. You did a great job up there. We need a little more of that down here in Frederick County.
Oh, don't worry. I'm down there more than I'm up here.
Well, listen, gentlemen, we have gone very long today, but I enjoyed our conversation. I do want to sum up this way, though. I appreciate what you guys do. I may not agree always with the way you guys go about what you're doing, but your service to the community is invaluable. You're holding politicians accountable and reminding them that they're public servants first. And I appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I will just close out by saying that, in my opinion, and I believe this, I think it can be very simple to be a local politician. If you get elected, number one, you execute on the values that you ran on. What you do, local politics should never really even be partisan. It should be a constant back and forth dialogue with your community to solve your community's problems, whatever it is. And 99 out of 100 of those problems are not going to be partisan issues. So I will just leave it at that. It's a constant communication and constant dialogue with your community. It's not that you just get elected and then you oversee your powers as a dictator. No, you constantly engage with the community. 99% of these politicians ain't doing it.
Fantastic speaking with you guys this evening. I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I believe that it actually was very insightful and even fascinating, kind of understanding this side of the world of whether you call it entertainment, politics, or sensationalism. You guys had quite a bit to say and add this evening, so thank you for your time.
Hopefully you guys will be back to visit us sometime soon, especially with the elections coming up soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you to Shaun Porter and Levi Trumbull. Two men, two methods, but one mission: to test whether free speech still stands tall in our America. Whether you see them as provocateurs or patriots, they force communities to ask the hard questions about power, transparency, and accountability. Thank you for listening to Mid-Maryland Votes, where we don't cancel conversations, we ignite them. Like, follow, and share for more content like this, and we will see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes.